Oh, it started so quick.
Yeah, but to be honest, you never do anything nice for me.
I made you a header. What do you mean?
I said I wanted some head.
Oh. And now that we have all the hot side done, there's 6 V-bands to work with, and tying that all in together was kind of complicated. But now, here comes the fun. You guys know I do my thing with titanium, you know. We gotta do it again. It's already in all the other cars. So I end up coming here with this, or I could even make this go like that, and then be...
I do not want, I want them as far apart from each other as possible.
Yeah, so this is, we could do this and S back. That's not a big deal.
The situation right now is that Isaiah loves his signature titanium. The hard part is I also love 3-inch consistent diameter pipes, tubes, whatever you want to call them, throughout this whole thing. They're larger. That makes this a little bit more difficult because the bends have to be larger to accommodate smooth airflow. We have this cool turbo sitting in a weird spot that we've never had before, which has a lot of cool benefits, but makes it very difficult to make this a quick and easy setup. We've already made my piece here, the Loudener, like the thing from The Simpsons.
The Loudenser?
Yeah, opposite of a silencer. And so now we have more than a 90-degree turn here, and Isaiah's gonna work his magic, as he always does. I've kept him cut off from doing 100% of what he wants to do, necessarily, because I love my Gretty elbow. I love the aesthetics of that. I made this, if I had a 5-axis machine, I would have probably machined this to bend and get that going while the tube was only 2 inches. So look at how much larger that is, creating a larger sweeping curve. You guys will love the pie cuts, of course, but that's out of necessity to try and get this as tight as possible. You hate it? I love it. From here forward, that's beautiful. Maintain this distance here.
If I do that, no matter what, I have to bend over there. And so if I bring this more out this way, it's gonna make that bend look weirder.
I definitely think it should. Because if you follow the radius of this would radius in here, and this starts to radius like right there. So that I don't think that'd be a problem.
I just want to say real quick, how do you read that? If anybody could make out a few of those words, I'm proud of you. It looks like someone was like possessed and started writing some Latin stuff down. Intercooler pipes are now all tacked up, ready to be welded. They fit in there real nice and cozy. Follow this little path to victory. I think they come out really nice. Think about putting a little brace in between here, so that way it looks all real nice and trick. And then it's a power steering pump. I got them out somewhere. You guys don't know how much this weighs, but just know that weighs like, I don't know, 13 grams?
So question.
Yeah.
What kind of music are we putting for your welding sequence?
Ooh, no. We gotta do some rave music, bro. EDM with
I now know that this isn't the only power pack thing coming out of New Zealand, thanks to Athletic Greens. I basically am here 24/7, and the only way you can pull off something that extreme, constantly pushing yourself to the limit, is if you take care of yourself. Try and keep your immune system up, try and keep your health up. If you knew me back when I was at my computer business, you knew that I was obsessed with very geeky things at the time, and I very much was into alfalfa grass, wheatgrass. That was one more thing I had to take. I had my multivitamin, I liked eating a lot of Greek yogurt, and then I also had to do wheatgrass. Thanks to Athletic Greens, it's all one scoop. You've got your probiotics, you've got your wheatgrass, you've got your multivitamin all in one thing. It's all right in here. You don't have to try and find multiple solutions. It's just one little packet, or in this case, one little scoop. Just like everything else I represent on my channel, this is no stranger to transparency. There's over 75 vitamins and minerals, and it's all sourced from whole foods. While this isn't particularly something that I focus on, it is important to note that this is vegan, there's no GMOs, there's no sucralose, dairy, gluten. This is only packed with the good stuff. This looks like a phenomenal multivitamin. AG1 supports a healthy gut, energy levels, focus, and so much more, all in a daily serving that costs less than a cup of coffee. Go to the link in the description to start your order. Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D, as well as 5 free travel packs with your first order. Go to athleticgreens.com/RobDahm to order. That's athleticgreens.com/RobDahm. This wouldn't be a SEMA prep without some sleep deprivation. Many of you may know this brand. I'm a very big fan of this. The only thing I hate about Spall, if you guys watch this, Spall, please, for the love of God, just retail your own brushless fans. The companies that do that for you are very difficult to work with. I want to buy more of your products, and they make it very difficult to do that. These are brushed fans. They work amazing. This one's going to be for the oil cooler, and I have Spall's little kit also, this little temperature-based resistor that will turn on the fan at 195 degrees for the oil, and then turn it off once it gets down to 175. I suspect that when we go to do really crazy stuff, it'll be on almost all the time, and that's why we have the really nice DC power alternator. But this little kit, it works out perfect for not having to worry about the ECU controlling that. I want to show you a little bit more about that over here. So the issue with this car is my goal was to use as much of the Corvette stuff as possible to run the car. Well, that bit me in the ass over time. That's why you see this mess right here. These are the stock ones for the alternator, coolant temp, I don't know how these stickers have stayed on, oil temp, and oil pressure. I cut the harness up and retained these wires all for that. So those will all, probably in a clean way, go over back to this. And this will allow us to use the entire dash, the C5 heads-up display, and the little area where the odometer is, to say, okay, here's the oil temp for this car. Hopefully the C5 doesn't cut power to the car if it thinks that this car is like overheating or doing something weird like that. That might bring you to this right here, which is the stock car has drive-by-wire. There it is, the Z06, 405 horsepower. This car makes way more than that now, right? So when the car fires up, it has to sense this motor spinning back and forth, and then it also has to detect the throttle body opening and closing based on this. If you were to take these parts apart to hide them away, it won't work. So this whole thing has to be together for the car to think it's fine. The pedal as well is hidden inside of the car. Why am I not using any of this? Because we can't control this. This is controlled by the GM's thing, and I don't want to mess with the GM system, so that just stays there. The last thing I need, and I think it might be this wire here, is the control over the tachometer. So seeing the tach rev is something I very much want to include as well. So now the whole dash for the stock car will work. I can trim down a lot of this mess here. So I made it all work. Adaptronic's working perfectly, but again, I didn't want it to try and also have a dash. I wanted the car to look bone stock to the average person. One of the things I've wanted to do for the longest time is have the RPM work and watch it bury the needle when the engine goes up to where the rotary really loves to be. That requires a little bit of ingenuity, and it may or may not work fully, but I logged and I figured out which wire years ago. So the wire here, I haven't marked it whatever D4 means. It's the RPM signal wire from the computer that goes to the dash. So I'm going to splice into this, and I'm going to leave the dash side kind of disconnected, but I'm going to take the other side, connect it into this computer, which is what this goes to here, and then send that to the dash, and then this computer is going to basically fake the 2-rotor to a V8. And I think this signal pulses every time. Basically we have to fake it one way or another. It might be both ECUs pulse once per rotation, or both ECUs pulse once per rotor firing. I'm going to have to fake that dash, and I want to be able to have it where the dash revs with the engine, so that I don't have to have an aftermarket dash, I just have the Corvette dash. This wire is going to mix into their stock mess there. I'm going to work up on cleaning all these up. It started with a kiss, but how did it end up like this? Sorry, Erica's listening to too much 2010, 2000s emo. This just started out as a simple request, and it turned into this. Speedflow kicks ass. We're very, very pleased with their products. I actually learned about them through TurboSmart because the two companies are both from Australia, and I am hooked on their fittings. I will never be able to machine and make something look this clean. These are very, very well finished pieces. So what we're gonna do is utilize this speed flow material, hose fittings and all that, to really update the rest of the Rotary Corvette. Starting with the oil system. You'll see a variety of fittings here, but similar to the ones we've used in the past, this is like the direct mix between stainless and the softer material like this. This is very strong. Feels amazing. And this is their 200 series. You can actually tell by the number scheme there. Their 200 series has the little collets, the little olives as you call them. Those get pushed in, and then that creates a whole clamping situation. You just have to remember to put this on before you go and do that. Far deep into the build, and we have got something really fun I wanted to share with you. So we are using Speedflow from Australia. We're using all their fittings for this car. And I have seen Isaiah do something that could either work 100%, be probably the sickest hose ever made in all of history, or fail absolutely spectacularly. Either way, I want you guys to be part of this journey. In this case, we're using the Speedflow's 20AN soft line for the radiator, and we are replacing the ones that we had from XRP. They're a little rough, and they also don't go to the correct spot. The engine's coolant is completely backwards. What Isaiah's about to do, well, we'll let him show you.
Rob wants to see me fail so bad, and you know, there's only a certain amount of people in this world that hate me that much, and Rob is the #1 person. So we're just gonna mark this and cut this, and it's gonna be perfect. And Rob's be like, "Wow, Isaiah, you're good as they say you are," and I'm like, "Yeah, you should know this."
So the issue is that top fitting right up there, where when my hand takes away, that top fitting, Isaiah, if you point to the 45-degree one, yeah, that one gets super close to the trigger wheel.
Yes, I have a finger distance in between.
Yeah, it is so close, but it would never touch because the fitting's made out of aluminum, so if it won't touch now, it's not going to touch then either. But that whole thing has to go straight shot. When you're making these sort of fittings...
What sucks is you have me second guessing myself now.
You should triple, quadruple guess. So he's got to try and guess the exact...
That was a measurement right there. You guys saw that measurement with my eyes? If you guys were the computer in my brain, you guys would have saw the calculation.
The magnitude of this, importance of this, everything is riding on this.
One thing I want to point out is that they have this is for -20. This is cut out for how big this is. I don't know if you see that.
Yeah, that looks
That's actually
clean.
Perfect. So we have this cut. Not a lot of people believe in me, but I want to thank my dad for always believing in me. You know, throw that into the hole.
I gotta get a behind the ball shot.
Cheating this time too. You know, some lubricant on it. I'm using the wrong hand. I feel like a stranger. I fucked up by throwing the WD-40 on there first.
I think you said spit on it.
I got it everywhere.
I know.
I was aiming for the forehead.
Oh, it's going. It's going. We're gonna get some ASMR up in this bitch.
You guys gotta make sure that that's square. You always want to hand tight as much as you could go. Not a lot of people are like Rob and could hand tight the whole thing. So you see the threads are going in there real clean. I'm sure you guys hear that. All right. You guys don't want to be like some people and leave it open so that way it could scar it.
Yeah, I have to back up to get the magnitude of how big that adjustable is.
At the end, you only want about like 1 millimeter or about yay of clearance between these. You see, that is yay. And you don't want to be that person to have them all weird. You want this to be flat with this. And then you also don't want to have discoloration or any scarring. You know, I have minimal.
I scarred the shit out of But guys, just for the record, if you go to SEMA, look at the 90-degree one and look at the 45-degree one. If the 90-degree one is leaking, that's my fault. If the 45-degree one is leaking, that's Isaiah's fault. If neither of them are leaking, that's how good Speedflow is, that they can handle both of us.
We're going to hope this fits. The room to spare. Oh my God. For everybody that was along this ride and you guys all doubted me, I hope you guys unsubscribe. Because look at all that room.
Oh man, I'm going to be eating my words.
All those chickens.
Yeah, you got your chicken dinner. Damn it. Fortunately, Joel is back, so I don't have to hold the camera anymore. The video was way better during that time period, so I apologize for that. I've gone back to working on the car, except right now I'm still just watching. He's doing a damn good job. He's installed the power steering oil
Yeah, this
cooler.
is the OEM power steering cooler.
That might be OEM either for this car or a different car.
Well, no, this is always, the bolt holes are right there.
Oh, you found them?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I thought I kept the right ones.
Yeah, so that is actually a bent fins and all.
It's like a harp. The Volvo power steering pump there, and he's working his magic on that while I am working on being cool. Look at this clean setup though. That's my tap for the spall setup, and so that will actually power this fan that I've hidden now down here, as we showed you earlier. Little baby fan for the oil cooler here. This we now know is going to mount somewhere over here with a massive oil filter on there. This sensor that controls that fan, and then the two sensors meant for the Corvette. Absolutely beautiful. On top of all that, simple enough, I bought this headlight motor from Rock Auto.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah, I did this. And you spin it a lot. This is just like an FD. Feels like an FD. Exactly. Now watch this. Boom.
Wow.
That's nice.
Stock, baby. Stonks.
That was a pain in the ass. Oh, we need an oil change. Yeah, look at this. Okay, yeah, sure. Just big old oil filter. Let me just take that off. Tactically reload that bitch. Misthread it, you know, because I work at Jiffy Lube, and so you have to do it. That baby ain't going nowhere. That thing's solidly mounted, ready for all our oil activities. Rob's playing with some string. I'm gonna go ahead and do the oil lines, the heart of the car. We're gonna have so much line, literally. We got 37 feet from speed flow, because they do in meters, and we're most likely gonna use 30 feet of oil line, which is gonna give us really nice oil capacity.
One of my little tricks here is that I take one of my pieces of leftover rope, which in this case is a piece of Teflon. It's nice and slippery, to be honest. It's like Teflon slipperiness. And then I use that to hook it in like this. And you'll be surprised that this alone, right there, is enough. Once it gets inside of the bag, right here, it can't undo itself. This is my easiest way of getting wires through long pieces of heat shrink, because it just, you'd think that it has to be tied. I'll show you this. This is just like oddly satisfying. It just can't unravel. There's no way that you'd be able to get all those in here properly. I might have to have some interactiveness where you just grab the, yeah, and then you just keep pulling the heat shrink. Wiring corner at the moment. But I finally at least have a heat gun that can handle spinning the air around like this. This is kind of a fun little auto setup as far as normal cars are concerned. This is that fan hidden behind and zip tied through the center of this. There's a little bit sticking out, which I think unfortunately reduces the fan's effectiveness, but not by much. This is clearly something that needs to be powered and grounded, but I don't want it running at all times, so I want this sensor right here to turn on at 195 degrees. So when the oil hits 195, this thing will now send a ground signal. This is grounded, we've tested it, even through the Teflon tape, it cut through and got to aluminum. But then this will ground as soon as it hits 195 degrees, and then once it has done that, it won't unground until it hits 175 degrees. So basically, hey, the fan's gonna run until the car starts really cooling down again, and I'm okay with that. We've got a good alternator. So that's where this kit comes in, and I'm pretty impressed. I mean, it is an expensive kit. It's $100 for basically a relay and some spare things and the sensor. The parts collectively you could buy for a lot cheaper, but I do sometimes love just, hey, I don't want to forget that I've got a fuse. We're gonna put this fuse onto another ring terminal all the way up near the battery, and then the other side of this will run down to a relay, and we're gonna put this relay somewhere between these two, right? We're gonna have the relay have a line go to the sensor, and then it'll send the power to this line here. It's all a little bit long, but we can even shorten these too. The relay will allow power to go to the fan based on the approval from the sensor. That's a pretty beefy, I'm very pleased with this relay setup. It's sealed, and I do like a sealed relay. It just seems much cleaner. I was just about to take this apart and I realized something. That is, there's the $100 right there. All that extra wire. You know what, I can cheat and use some of this because I need to get from the battery to that.
So I got the olive on there, so the olive goes in between the Teflon hose and the steel braided stuff, so just gotta make sure, be careful, you don't want to prick your hand on any of these actually hurt. So with this, you're able to push this guy in there, and I'll do that on there because you need to give it some force. And this guy slides up in here, boom, boom, and they do their thing, and it's tight. But it's a really very sturdy, a more tougher design, but that's because it actually seals and does its job. I'm gonna show you guys exactly how this is done. It just ends up actually being really easy. The olive goes in between the Teflon and the braided like I just showed you guys, but on the inside there's these two little ribs, right? Now it just slides right in. You bring this guy up, tighten that up real quick, let's lube it up. I wasn't expecting that to be easy. The hardest part is getting the olive. Now it's tightening up against the olive in there, and same as before, kind of have a nice millimeter in between. You don't want to tighten it all the way because you're going to ruin the Teflon, as Rob told me today, and I just learned. Yeah, look at that. Whew. Brand new, baby. So we got this hose done, and it's looking really clean. This is seamless, organic, just in there, real nice and smooth, black on black on black. I was kind of concerned starting this off, this is the second line I ever made, and now I'm actually in love with these. These are really, really high quality, really easy to use once you get used to it. The olive thing that you put in there, it just makes it so easy, and you just know that it's not gonna leak. The only thing I was, like I said, was worried about was these aren't swivel. You have to tighten this in the direction that this is, because if you do this one backwards, there's no way you're gonna flip it around. So, but it actually makes it really easy, and Joel actually should have filmed that process. The one thing I wanted to point out that he didn't capture, like I said before, was how easy it is to lock them into the right rotation, because on the car, they just make it so easy. This is to the block, so you see this piece, this is it right here. This literally just slides in to there like that. The dick goes in the pussy, and this guy just comes up, and literally a thread right there. I'm gonna be careful for what I do now, because I don't want to mess anything up. So just put that fitting on there how you like it, right where it goes. Okay, cool.
So you're basically saying that you tighten it while it's in position, so
Yep. So that way you don't take it out, you tighten it, it rotates or anything like that. And especially since these hoses are so directional, is the best way to put it. They're not flimsy hoses. Is the best.
Yeah, that is a good way of putting it.
That guy will stay like that, and with this rotation, is pushed down. And threads in there.
Isaiah got the power steering pump bracket mounted to here. It looks really clean, and of course it's hovering above, but not even close to touching my Bowflex. When I need to work out, you just take the two tires off, and then you just... Those of you guys that don't know, this is this major spring. It's a leaf spring made out of some sort of fiberglass type stuff, and that is your whole front spring for both sides, which is hilarious. So this is definitely the jankiest thing I've done in a while, but it is also the most professional. It just sucks when you have like a red color, a red color, a red color, and...
Show them the see-through red.
Yeah, look at that, look at that. Wait, I gotta do it like a makeup artist.
Oh, that actually helped out a lot.
I need this larger size fuse because I'm running a lot of current through this for the electric pump power steering. It's all 8 gauge. It sucks because it's all like properly terminated, properly together. It's fused. When do I run fuses? You know, a nice beefy 40 amp fuse. I mean, these big 40 amp fuses can run current and not overheat and pop. So this setup is perfect for the power steering. I'm just embarrassed by the color. And worse yet, I'm actually gonna, on this part of it, instead of using heat shrink to hide this, because I don't want to waste DR25 on this car, is I'm gonna put the rib plastic.
The alligator skin?
Yeah, yep, over that. I'm running it straight off the alternator, which is a little controversial for traditional things, but here's why. The alternator is currently running a 2 gauge wire from there to the starter, which is where the rest of the car comes from. And I don't want to have that circuit constantly having 40 to up to potentially 100 amps all the time while the accessories are on. This is the only time you'll see me using non-Valvoline fluid. I'm sure Valvoline makes power steering fluid. I just don't happen to have any at the moment. We are going to do a first test of the electric power pumped. It's not e-pass, it's electric power steering. We're actually going to turn on the car, and what I did was I set this car to where when that line right here gets just accessory power, so it only is on when the key is in running mode. So if you go to start the car, this pump will turn off, which is good because you want to divert all your power to your main thrusters, the starter, and the ECU, and fuel injectors and igniters. That's it. So this line should turn off, and we tested it, it does turn on. So let's go ahead and hear this thing fire up for the first time. We're gonna go ahead and turn the car into an on position. You're gonna hear the water pump turn on, fuel system, and then we'll hear water pump, and then you'll watch me turn on the power steering. This is purposely not connected. I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, fitting's leaking.
The fitting?
One of the original fittings. Round 2. It sucked down almost all that. That's kind of cool. Can you do me a favor now and hold these two together And then I'm gonna turn the steering wheel back before I can bleed the last of it. Oh yeah, that's when it goes to. Do it again. That's when it goes to 1700 psi. You don't want to log it too much like that. Going all the way over to the other lock. Wait, go ahead and let go. Oh, it's very interesting.
There's also no load on it.
Yeah, it feels easier without the pump on. I've got it running right now, and it stays on. The tires are on the ground. So we got that. I know how that felt. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the car. Much harder.
Wow. That's definitely noticeable.
Yeah, that is amazing. And it's not like over the top go-kart feeling either. This is the first time I've ever running electric powered pump for power steering, and the idea is that in a straight line scenario, we're only using about 10 amps, whereas when it's turning, it can use 40, potentially 30 to 40, and then spike up to maybe even 100 if you hit the lock and really just work that pump over. So the idea is that we don't have to use belt-driven pumps like we do on the stock cars or on the 3-rotor. So this is super exciting. We'll keep monitoring as we go, but you just saw it work. That's from a Volvo working in a GM with a Mazda engine. So you saw that the fluid that we put in there was essentially clear. Watch what comes back out. We've had this rack. Ooh.
Whoa.
That was very quick.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, it's like sludge. Okay, so we'll put clear fluid back in. So you can just see real time how much it affects the level. Oops, that's embarrassing. You're gonna do something mildly dangerous. If you have a meter, you can more than likely do this. Just so you know, it turns it into an ammeter. It'll read amperage, and that creates a short circuit from one lead to the other. It's not measuring between the two, it's running a line between the two. So what we're gonna do is actually turn the car on, not fire it on, just power the car up. And most cars, modern cars especially, will turn all these systems on and you'll blow this fuse that's in here. Right now it's a 20 amp fuse. I do know that this car does not go up to 20 amps, but what we're looking for is to see how low the amperage draw can be to see if this car can be treated like a normal car, like leaving it plugged in, whereas I haven't fixed that yet on my other cars. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug this side into this, and what you'll see, we'll focus mostly on this, is you'll see the car fire up, and the stock Corvette will do tons of tests and then slowly release the amount of energy it's trying to use. So here we go. And there was checking the headlights. Now we're drawing 1.4 amps. And so the ECU's turning on, or at least the body control, the security system, all those systems are doing system checks right now. And now it's dropping to half an amp, so 500 milliamps. As each system kind of turns itself back off. Okay, this is getting close. We're at 120 milliamps, which is maybe about double of the amount of amperage I'm looking for. Maybe it'll go down even lower, but right now it's drawing slow enough that you could leave the car plugged in all day. I don't think you could keep it plugged in like a normal car. It would, drain much quicker, but certainly not like leaving a headlight on. Let's see if it goes any lower. It took maybe about 2 minutes, and I was getting a little worried, but we're down to 60 milliamps, which is phenomenal. That's basically stock car level. None of my stuff is hardcore wired in, although like the new power steering pump is, and the alternator is, those have to be wired in straight through. They have fuses, but there's no relays, so those could draw amperage. The idea is that there's signal wires, turn them on. So 60 milliamps, this, we could leave the car plugged in all week and treat it like a normal car. This is yet another thing that makes this car much more streetable, and I love it. What you can hear now is just the coolant pump all the way down there cycling through. And I'll tell you what, one of the best things that the Corvette ever did was had this tank all the way up here, and you can see this clear line right here. You'll see that little bit of air as the system pressurizes and depressurizes. You'll see the air escape up into here and neutralize out.
He's moving some water. He's
Yeah,
moving some water.
and
into it.
you can hear that last little bit of air up there. Once the system pressurizes, though, it gets the last bit of air out, and you'll just see it shoot a bubble through. But even this, with the car just cold,
I think you should blow it again. You need to get in there nice and deep, like boy. You're actually blowing a decent amount of air out. So overachiever right there.
my cheeks should be all like numb. Coolant system, Isaiah nailed out. The power steering system, Isaiah nailed out. Wiring, still TBD, I didn't nail out. But we have oil.
Working?
Oil, Joel's going to get spark plugs. We're going to run RX-8 trailing plugs as our leading, RE9 BTs. And then we'll just reuse a set of 10s.
You said you're going to use the Superior plugs?
Superior chassis plugs. I think we are moments away from starting it and turning it over. Here comes my favorite moment in every one of my build video series, and that's when I get to put Valvoline into my engines. You guys may know me from the Valvoline ads as the man holding a piston looking like a complete hypocrite, but that's okay because I have one of the sexiest piston motors over there. The piston from that video though, or that shoot, was not a Cosworth piston. In fact, I never knew that piston. But you know, everybody's got to broaden their horizons and learn more and be willing to accept non-rotary life. I'm working on a Corvette for that very reason. Anyway, we'll focus on the good stuff, and the good stuff is VR1 2050. You know what that's at. You know what that's about. The high zinc ZDDP. This isn't an ad. I just literally love this stuff. I whisper this stuff in my dreams. I'm just like, ZDDP. I saved the really, really good stuff for the 4-rotor, but this is what you can buy at AutoZone, O'Reilly's, Advanced. Used to be Murray's was one of them, but in this case, we're using this version in this car and the 3-rotor. And as we have torn this motor down to dowel it, you saw that the bearings were in perfect shape, so no question of how well this works. We are going to fill the oil pan up and then cycle the motor and get the oil filters and oil coolers all filled up and then fill it again. As I thought before we start this, because we've added a massive oil filter, let's salt the jar.
Fill me up, Daddy.
We need as much. Wow, that's a good amount of. It's still going down.
Mm-hmm.
Saves us some wear and tear on the motor while we're turning it over, trying to build oil pressure, getting oil through this. I need to do this because I do have a dash here, but it is not the dash. I can't see the ECU, but what we can see, you can see oil pressure's working, oil temp is working, and coolant temp. They're all sensors that are plugged into the correct spots on the new engine setup, and they actually also show up on my heads-up display. So I can look at those without having to modify this dash, and hopefully my RPM also works. But we're gonna go ahead and fire up the Adaptronic. Oh, it started so quick. That was not my intention, because we need to build oil pressure more. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and check the fill level, but everything, the car's just firing right up. That's so sick. But you're firing up with no oil pressure. I really think we'll be able to start at this run. Hell yeah! Alternator's just 14.7 volts. Oil pressure's at 60 PSI. RPM. Look at the dash. That's so awesome. My oil pressure gauge is working. All the temperature, every sensor on this thing is working on the dash. That is so sick. We'll open that door up a little bit. In time for Halloween too. So I set it to V8 on the Adaptronic, and I ran that one wire, and the dash reads exactly what the ECU reads. It's so sick. A couple of very important things to note. That was the first time of firing up my little OEM++ engine. Like it fired up on the first turnover, and that's on all my dowels and all that sort of stuff. For me, that's still a very warm moment. I don't sit on the pass though. We still got more to go. We're gonna bring it up to temp right now, but I wanna show you guys a little secret we just realized. totally planned. But when we fire this thing up on methanol, we can just run an lack of intercooler pipe right there, and there we've got our 1,800 horsepower. No, I'm just kidding. But this, it looks like all those drag cars, and that's completely on accident. Couple major things that are so sick is that the oil pressure gauge, I forget this on the dash, but we were at 80 some PSI solid. And, as the oil heats up, it'll be even better, but it's so neat. RPMs, it's not like off or anything. The RPM is the RPM. That is the coolest thing to see a stock dash do that. And as Isaiah was doing, he was just doing a second ago, he was revving it by unplugging a vacuum leak that we have. We're currently at 8.5, maybe 8 quarts of oil for the whole system, which I'm really happy with that, especially for a street car. Keep us filtered and full. Yeah, we're full. So nice oil capacity there.